Welcome in, everybody, to a special Saturday edition of Football 24/7 as we are now 8 days away from Super Bowl 59. The Eagles are 1 day away from flying to New Orleans, and they just concluded their third straight day of practices. Johnny Mack joining me live from Novacare Complex. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Saturday, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, this is it. Last practice in the Delaware Valley. Eagles leave for New Orleans tomorrow. Super Bowl week will officially begin. Um, and yeah, this was it. So they'll have to send off tomorrow, and then they're off to the Big Easy.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mack. They wrapped up. They didn't practice was closed off to you guys today, huh? Right?
Yeah, a late shift, which is not unfamiliar with this Eagles team. They were scheduled to practice at Lincoln Financial Field. They moved it back to the Novacare complex. Close to it. Not really a big type of deal from the standpoint. I think people were way too hyper focused on these practices this week, to be honest, when it came to the injuries and all that kind of stuff. This is just extra work in the prep, more the mental standpoint of it. I would say it's a bigger deal for the coaching staff and being able to get the game plan in a little bit earlier than you typically would, even in a bye week during the season, because a bye week during the season, you're sort of not sort of the collective bargaining agreement doesn't permit you to have these types of practices in the bye week. So it is a little bit different from that standpoint. You are allowed to work a little bit more, um, but I don't want to, because I do think people were way too focused on the fact that Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson um, weren't practicing this week and correlate to that being a bigger deal than it really is, because they're going to play in the Super Bowl.
So we're going to get more concrete, talk about those guys as you go into week 2. Anything this week is more precautionary and nothing to be taken too seriously, basically, John.
Well, yeah, and every situation is its own, obviously. But in the case, because of what went down the NFC Championship game, I get why people were a little bit concerned. But this particular week, and one correction from our last show I wanted to make, because this is a goofy rule by the NFL, and to be honest, I don't even remember it. But the Eagles put out a Friday injury report yesterday. So typically during a week, if you think about it from the standpoint of the regular season, that's when you have to put down the status for the games that are going to be played on Sunday or Monday. And the Eagles listed 4 guys as questionable. 3 of them are on their 21-day practice windows and not even um, on the roster: Brandon Graham, Britton Covey, CJ Uzama. So Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens were not even given an injury designation. In other words, they weren't questionable. They weren't even, they don't have probable anymore. Back in the old days, they had probable. They certainly weren't doubtful, and they weren't ruled out. So the Eagles corrected me, and they said, no, that's if we were playing a game. It's an estimation if we were playing a game this Sunday. So, in other words, what they're saying is, if the Super Bowl was this Sunday, they'd be playing. So I would not be concerned one iota about them playing next Sunday. And, you always put guys get hurt in practice. I mean, I say it all the time. Ben Van Sumeren had a season ending injury in practice this year. Jordan Mailata had an injury in practice a couple of years ago that kept him out multiple games. So things can happen, but they would have played this Sunday, is what I'm trying to say, to calm people down. Never mind next Sunday.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good clarification there, Johnny Mack. When you say they corrected you, are the Philadelphia Eagles listening to our great Football 24/7 recaps? Is that what's going on?
Well, it was either that or my Sports Illustrated story, but yeah, they're always listening. Trust me, because if I do something that they don't like. I hear about it.
Good. Hello, Philadelphia Eagles. Let's get those press credentials for JAKIB Sports. We appreciate that for them tuning in. Good stuff there. John, the big news today is that Hall of Fame level Eagle legend Lane Johnson will return next year, win or lose in the Super Bowl. I am super excited to hear that. I think he's playing at such a high level. You heard him speak today. My body feels better than it has in the last couple of years. Super excited to hear about Lane Johnson coming back. And he just continues an unbelievable career. He's again at the top of the rankings in terms of tackles in the NFL. Your thoughts on Lane Johnson announcing that today, that he will return, win or lose in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I should have led with that. That's obviously the biggest news of the day. I mean, to be honest, there wasn't much news from the Super Bowl standpoint today.
Right.
But the fact that Lane Johnson is going to return for his 13th season, and it wasn't like we thought he was going to retire. The like last year, we kind of all thought that was it for Jason Kelsey. And then Fletcher Cox kind of developed around clean out day. It became clear that he was thinking about it. From those of us around Lane, we certainly thought he'd be back in next season because he innovated. He's got a few years left in him. He has felt good physically this entire season. That hasn't always been the case with him. But to hear him confirm it before the Super Bowl, I think, is a good thing because he's going to be 35 in May, and anytime you're at that age, and he said it, you take it year by year, and maybe an injury would have changed his decision making, but he's gotten through it relatively unscathed, and he feels better typically than he does late in the season. So the fact that he's going to be able to return and continue to build up what I think is already a Hall of Fame resume. I think this is a Hall of Fame player. And just the luxury, I think there's a lot of people who only are Philadelphia Eagles fans, and they focus on the Philadelphia Eagles, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's so rare to have two tackles in the Eagles with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, who they just put on islands 90% of the time, and they don't need to help them. So many other teams, if you watch games, they'll have to help one of their tackles. They'll have to chip running backs. It might be a tight end, might even be a wide receiver to help them with some of these great pass rushers. The Eagles just let Lane Johnson go out there and say, all right, we don't have to worry about that side. Jordan Mailata, we don't have to worry about that side. And that's such a luxury for this offense, and it has been for a very long time now.
It's incredible that he's going to return, John. And like I said, you just mentioned it, 35 years old, and he's still playing at this level. It's unbelievable what he's been. And John, I think it's great to get that stability coming back. I mean, we were talking a little bit pre-show there, maintaining a roster. There's always turnover. There's always stuff going on there. And I think when you have that guy coming back, now I felt like he was going to come back. I think you just mentioned that as well. We all felt like he was going to come back. He certainly didn't have a dip off and play this year, but just to have that confirmation feels good. So great news on
because if you go from the standpoint, and why it's really good from the standpoint, I do think there is something that if you do win the Super Bowl, to walk off into the sunset as a Super Bowl champ, I think that changes some people's sort of mindsets. And the fact that, he said win or lose, he's coming back. I think that part of it, there would have been no doubt in my mind if they lose, he's coming back. But if they win, you leave the door open and say, you know what, not a bad way to go out. I think that might change it a little bit. But he made it very, very clear that win or lose, he's going to be back for the 2025 season.
Great stuff there, John. Is he the only player you talked to that? So I saw they had a press conference thing, and I was watching, and it ended after Lane. I thought there'd be more players. Was he the only one who spoke to the press today?
Yeah, the locker room was open, so I
Gotcha.
spoke to a bunch of guys, but he was the only one on the platform that
Yeah, they
fans would be
broadcast it
able to
out.
see
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
right.
So yeah, I mean the locker room was open for its typical 45 minutes after practice, and bunch of guys spoke, but he was the only one who got the so-called podium treatment today, and he made some news. So
Yes,
that's
he
not a
did.
bad thing. And a slow news day for
Yeah.
um, I think everybody's um, got their minds on New Orleans, and they're leaving tomorrow, and then the circus begins with media night on Monday night, and that's where all the goofy questions are asked, and
Yeah.
um, people dress up in costumes and all that stuff. So the hoopla begins, and you know nobody likes it, but hopefully they get through it and get to the game as focused as possible.
John, no doubt about it. We got a special member in here who doesn't get to watch our Birds 365 live. He's dropped us a super chat. I'll get to that in just a second. Jared Hatfield, thank you, sir. I'll get to your super chat. Johnny Mac, last question though. You said you spoke to some guys in the locker room. Anything worth sharing with the people? Anything you can, the people are looking for any tidbits of information you can give them, John McMullen. What do you got from the locker
Now,
room
I
today?
told you off air. I go, this is a slow news day.
Yeah.
There's not much going on when you're not in practice. Now, the injury report, they don't even have that because they skip things back. So we're not even going to know who was at practice because we weren't allowed in, and they already the goofy NFL rules. Friday is when the injury report has to be out, even though there's not a game. So they put it out yesterday. That means they don't have to put it out today. So you're not even going to get that. Very slow news day. Um, Lane saved it, kind of. Um, there will be some stuff I get to share on Monday, but it's what we call in the industry embargoed right now, so I can't
There you
talk
go.
about it yet. Um, but yeah, it more of a laid back day, just you know, shooting the what, talking to Nick Yates, Will Shipley a little bit, but not just more on a personal level than anything else.
So if you needed any more promotion or reason to tune in to Monday's edition of Birds 365, we have some embargoed news, as Johnny Mac said, embargoed talking points that we will get to on Monday's edition of Birds 365. So make sure you guys tune in. That'll be 8 to 10 a.m. Monday, and we will lock in, man. Super Bowl week coming up here, John. Let's read this super chat to you, my friend Jared Hatfield, John, who checked in. And just to give you an update on Jared. He checked in. I finally made it to a live. I work later in the day, so I always listen to the read broadcast of Birds 365 every single day. And he checked in with a $10 super chat. Johnny Mac, what's the best way to counter losing an offensive coordinator every single time we have a successful season? Good question, Jared.
Hard to do. I would say be good, but not be great, and you don't want to be in that position.
How
So
about an older one, John? How about a guy that's a little bit, maybe past that bell curve of the young
yeah,
upcoming
I
offensive
know.
line?
People talk about that like it's common. I mean, Vic Fangio is Vic Fangio. There aren't a lot of Vic Fangios, so you got to find a sweet spot of a very older, not I shouldn't say very old, but an older coach who doesn't have the ambition to be a head coach again. Um, and I think it's happened twice in Philadelphia with Jim Johnson and now with Vic Fangio. But even that's over a very lengthy period of time. And and he was a great coach, a great coordinator. But I don't think there was a ton of interest in the time with Jim Johnson as a head coach. I think that's been sort of revisionist history. So there aren't a lot of those types of coaches to begin with. Most coaches are ambitious, and Howie spoke about this back in the off season. He said, "Look, I mean, it's part of it, and it's better than the alternative." And what he meant by that is, if you're good, you're going to lose people. and that's better than being bad. But he also said if you're bad, you're going to lose people because you're going to fire people. Um, so it's a very nomadic industry. There's a lot of turnover every year. And the only way you get this continuity that everybody talks about is to either hire a head coach who's going to be the play caller and who is very successful year after year after year after year, certainly in the expectations of Philadelphia, which remember is very high. So you don't, it's not like you can finish 10-7 and, people think you should be in the Super Bowl. That might get you fired. Really hard to do. I think that wheelhouse that people talk about, it's like Vic Fan. Give me another name. Give me another name. I mean, it to say there's a bunch of those and you just pluck them off the tree. It's just they almost don't exist because everybody's got an ambition if they're a high level coordinator to be a
Right.
head coach, and if you're successful, you're going to lose coordinators. Now, if you look at Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo, a lot of people point to him, a little bit older, also a failed head coach. I think his lifetime record is like 12-41 as a head coach. So nobody really looks at him as a head coach anymore. Matt Nagy, a little bit interesting because I think he was a little bit, if anything, underrated in Chicago. You think about that organization, he at least got them to the playoffs where they lost to the Eagles that one year in the double doink game. And maybe he can sort of at some point rehabilitate his image, but he's regarded as a failed head coach. So not a lot of these guys exist, and you're not going to fire your head coach after he goes 17-3 and potentially 18-3. So somebody wants your coordinator, and the Saints do. You're going to lose him, and you do it again. And the Eagles will embrace it. And, to be honest, I don't think Kellen Moore hit a grand slam this year as the offensive coordinator. But guess what?
Yeah.
They're 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl
I
championship.
know. It's crazy, man. I mean, all year I basically thought he was underperforming, and here we are. He's on the brink of a head coach job. John, a very good, thorough explanation there. It's a complex problem, no doubt about it, and it kind of comes with success, and the solutions are not as easy as they might sound to be. Jared Hatfield, thank you for the super chat, man. Johnny Mac, before I let you go, man, one more super. Jay Parker checked in. He said, props to Z, J Mac, and Sills, the entire JAKIB team, for bringing the content to us. I know you guys are busting your asses and grinding it out for the fans. Johnny Mac certainly is doing that. Here he is again on a Saturday, giving you guys an update. So Jay Parker, thanks for that super chat. Johnny Mac, great job, man. We appreciate the extra work that you've done here covering this Super Bowl run. I appreciate it. The fans appreciate it, and all of JAKIB Nation appreciates it. Well done, John. Get home safe, brother, and we'll talk to you on Monday morning of Birds 365. We're all waiting for that information, John.
All right. Well, it's not that great, but at least we got some, context from the big decision makers of the Eagles. So
there you go.
And that's always big when we get a little time with the GM and the head coach. So, but we'll talk about it Monday morning.
Love it. Johnny Mac, well done, my friend. I'll talk to you on Monday, brother.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there's John McMullen joining me live here on JAKIB Sports. A great update, a Saturday practice update. That concludes day 3 of 3 for practices this week. The Eagles were on the field Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and they are set to fly to New Orleans tomorrow. So the festivities start tomorrow when the Birds land in New Orleans. I am jacked up, ready to go. I'll probably do some content for you guys live tomorrow. I don't think I'll get Sills or John on. But I might go live, do some content. William Stark, my God, he won a jersey with us on Friday. He checks in. Lost internet yesterday, and the fridge went on to the fritz. Still trying to connect for shipment. William, you let me know, man. If you can connect with me on social medias or whatever it is, if you send that thing today, brother, I will get your jersey out ASAP. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate your support, your $10 super chat, and everybody in the chat. I'll take a few comments before we get out of here. Jared, I also want to thank you again, brother, for becoming a member. Thank you so much for becoming a member on the channel, my friend. It means a lot to me, and your support today was great. Great to have you in a live chat. Finally, Devontae, what's up, my man? Good to see you in here. Dank Bird Gang, what's up, Dank? Ordered your sweatshirt, my man. He says, we're ready for a title. You and me both, Dank. You and me both, man. You and me both. So I think the team's jacked up. I think the city's jacked up. All right. And, 8 days away. 8 days away from glory. And I was saying on my show earlier today, man, enjoy this, okay? Because the climb is sometimes more enjoyable, more fun than reaching the destination. I know that might sound crazy to you right now, but you ultimately reach a destination in life, and sometimes you look around and you go, well, now what? Right? Now what? Or where do we go next? And we'll get there. I'm sure we'll get there. But, enjoy this climb. It all adds to where we are today. You go back to 22 and we lost a gut-wrenching, heartbreaking Super Bowl. That adds to the glory, to the build-up, to the moments that are leading to this Super Bowl. So it's an unbelievable time in the city, no doubt, man. The journey's been incredible. Brian, we appreciate it. Dakota, we appreciate it. Maurice agreed. It's always about the journey. Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. So good stuff, everybody. We got a great 8 days planned for you. John McMullen will be in New Orleans. He'll be flying out on Wednesday. All right. Unfortunately, I'm not able to go this year. I'm upset about it, but it is what it is. Okay. It is what it is. So Johnny Mac will be down there. We'll have extra content all week long. Okay. Extra content all week long on the channel. So make sure you guys are locked in, tuned in. We appreciate it. And hit that like button. We appreciate you. Love you guys. See you next time. Go Birds.